Hey, what's up? Today I want to share with you a hoarder house that I flipped where I put in $40,000 in rehab and generated $80,000 in profit. Before we dive in further, I want to mention I'm a house flipper in the San Francisco Bay Area, and on average I spend about $100,000 on the remodel on my flips. So the $40,000 remodel on this flip was on the very low end. And by doing just a light rehab, we generated $80,000 in profit. That's why it's a big win for us. I'm going to share with you what the hoarder house looked like when I purchased it. If you've never seen a hoarder house before, this will be interesting. And I will also show you where I chose to spend money on during the remodel and the nightmare sale process because the market was declining. And of course, I'm going to show you all the numbers and my takeaways from this flip. This is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot house in the city of Santa Clara. Like all my other deals, I got this one off market from an agent. The purchase price was $1,025,000. And the reason I was able to buy this house off market at a discounted price was mainly because it was a hoarder house. The seller didn't want to put the house on the market for sale because they were so embarrassed by how much stuff they have in the house. Also, to move all their stuff to their new house out of state, they needed a lot of time. So I offered them 1 month of free rent back for them to pack up and move. It really helped seal the deal because if the sellers were to put the house on the market for sale, most buyers would want to move in the house right after they purchase it. And the chance of the sellers getting a free rent back would be very slim. When I purchased the house, even though I was able to do a walkthrough on the property, it was very difficult for me to see a lot of the details because some rooms were filled up from floor to ceiling. So at the end of the rent back, I went to the house again, hoping to see more and finalize the scope of work. But when I got there, surprisingly, the house looked exactly the same. Even though the sellers already moved a truckload of stuff to their new home, they still had so much more in the house. So I had to give them an additional 2 weeks and check in almost every day to make sure that they are able to complete the move. That was a very good lesson for me about buying hoarder houses. After they finally moved out, let's see what the house looked like. When the sellers finally moved out after a month and a half, they still left a lot of their belongings for me to take care of. The left front yard has some grass and a huge tree, which looks nice and doesn't need much work. The right side has 2 big trees and a lot of junk, and only when you get closer, you'll see a trailer that was left behind. The trailer hasn't been moved since the 1960s, and the trees have been growing around it. We had to cut the trees before we could remove the trailer. Getting in the house, there's an old school mirror wall that I plan to remove. You see hardwood floors, which is nice because hardwood floors are desirable. Even though there's damages, we can easily refinish it at a reasonable cost. The slider goes out to the sunroom, but it was blocked by the seller's possessions at the time. There's a small dining area off of the kitchen. I want to remove the tile floors and put in new hardwood floors to match the living space. The galley kitchen has been updated, but I don't particularly like the greenish countertops or the white appliances. The guest bathroom has yellow shower tiles that are very dated, but the vanity is newer. The small house has 4 bedrooms, and each bedroom is tiny. The seller left a sewing machine and some big cabinets behind. The other 2 bedrooms are similar. They both have dated ceiling fan and dark navy carpet. The master bedroom is also small. The master bath has been updated and doesn't need much work. Let's check out the backyard. This is the side of the sunroom we saw earlier. It's still full of shelves and bins and dust, and I don't want to step inside. The backyard is very generous. We have a lot of trash to clean up. So the house is actually in pretty decent shape. Both the kitchen and the master bathroom have been updated not too long ago. You probably have already heard that kitchen and bathrooms are where you should focus your remodeling dollars on because they give you the best return. So luckily on this flip, I was able to save a lot of money because I didn't have to gut the kitchen or the bathrooms. The market was also changing rapidly back in the spring and summer of 2018. Not having to do a lot of work on the kitchen and the bathrooms also saved me a lot of time, so I could turn the project around quickly without being exposed to a lot of market risk. From the price standpoint, the median home price in the area is $1.2 million. Based on my estimate, the after repair value of this home is just above the median, around $1.3 million. This is the other reason why I didn't want to gut the kitchen and the bathrooms, moving walls to open up the kitchen or use any high-end finishing materials. When flipping an entry-level home, it's important to manage your budget and resist the urge to over-improve the house, because any extra dollar you spend on the house is going to have diminishing returns. Because it's only a light rehab, we were able to complete the project in just 1 month. Let's see how we transformed this home with limited budget. We painted the house a neutral gray color. On the right side, after removing the trees and the trailer, we put in small plants and fresh mulch. It looks so clean and spacious. On the left side, we just trimmed the tree and cut the grass. As soon as you walk in the door, you see the beautifully refinished hardwood floors. Staging also makes a huge difference and often makes a small space feel bigger. The same flooring throughout also makes the space feel bigger. The contemporary pendant light and furnishings gave the dining space an updated look. The kitchen looks so much brighter with a fresh coat of paint, new quartz countertops, and stainless steel appliances. When there are 4 bedrooms, we usually stage one of them as an office, just to give buyers an idea what they could do with the space. Remember the yellow shower tiles? We reglazed them with white epoxy paint and it looks all new. We also painted the vanity white. The whole space looks updated. The other bedrooms are painted and staged nicely as well. In the master bathroom, we didn't do any work, just a simple cleanup. Now we can finally get in the sunroom. With new screen and fresh paint, the screen room becomes a functional space for entertainment. We didn't do much in the backyard, just cleaned up the trash and it came out nice. After we got the house all cleaned up and looked new and shiny, the sale process was actually pretty rocky. We listed the house a little lower than where we think it's going to sell, which is a common practice in the Bay Area. Because of the strong demand in housing, it's pretty common for houses to sell within a couple of weeks being on the market with multiple offers. A lot of times, homes are listed for a little below market price to attract more buyers to bid on the price. That's the strategy that we were using here too, and we listed the house for 1.188. We had a lot of interested buyers and we got a ton of traffic during the open houses just the first opening weekend. Without any surprise, we received 3 offers and the sale price was bid up by over $100,000 over asking price. We accepted the best offer and got in contract, and it was all good until then. But the next day, as we were waiting for the buyer to put in the earnest money deposit, it never came in. The buyers got cold feet, which is not uncommon for first-time home buyers. So we moved down the list to the second best offer, but they didn't want the house either anymore. So this is not really about first-time home buyers being cold feet anymore. It's more about buyers being hesitant during a market decline. It was really nerve-wracking for me, but we had to move further down the list to the third buyer. Seeing the first 2 buyers backing out, the third buyer didn't want to step up either. So in just one day, from selling a highly desirable home, getting multiple offers, and having all the negotiation power, to trying to pawn off a home that nobody seems to want. It was quite a roller coaster ride. Without any other options, we had to host another open house and trying to get a new offer. Luckily, we were able to find a new buyer who's really in love with the home and finally sold the house for 1.27. The sale price was not as good as what we had originally, but I was just so grateful that we were able to find this new buyer so quickly. If we didn't have this new buyer, the market was still on the decline, and after a couple of weeks, the price could have gone down by 10%. Let's look at the numbers on the house. This is the deal analyzer that I use to analyze a house flip. If you want a copy of it, comment below with your email address so I can send it to you. And if you're wondering how to use this analyzer, check out my video on how to analyze a house flip, which is linked below. The after repair value is also the final sale price, 1.27 million. After deducting the commission, closing costs, miscellaneous costs, financing cost, and rehab cost, the profit was just over 80,000. The projected profit is only 7%, which is lower than my current criteria of 15%, but I like this deal because I didn't have to spend much on renovation. So my takeaways on this house. First of all, hoarder houses can be great opportunities, but you also have to be very careful. Hoarders don't just have a lot of stuff. They also have strong attachment to their things. The seller lady who sold me this house was extremely nice, but it was difficult for her to pack up and move. She wanted to take everything with her, which was not possible, so she ended up putting a lot of thoughts into the things that she had to leave behind. That's why the move took so long. So if you get a hoarder house deal, you want to budget a longer hold time to make sure that the seller will have enough time to move out. Also, there's usually a lot of stuff inside a hoarder house. You may not be able to see the condition of the house clearly, so you want to budget a little more for the rehab. For example, in this flip, because the rooms were so full and we were not able to see the baseboards or the outlets, so I budgeted a little more on those items just in case. Takeaway number 2, you can be creative on a remodel and not having to spend top dollar. For example, in this flip, on the kitchen and bathrooms, we were able to put in very little work and achieve great results. I'm especially proud of the before and after of the front door. We didn't replace the door, but we painted it, replaced the gold decorative ironwork with frosted glass, and replaced the hardware. Voila! All new, modern, and budget-friendly. Takeaway number 3. The sooner you can exit, the better, especially when the market is declining. As I mentioned earlier, we were able to complete the remodel within just 1 month, and sold the house within 2 weeks of being on the market. If we didn't turn the project around this quickly, there was a steeper market decline waiting for us, and I could have lost money on this deal. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button below and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. See you next week.